What's good, YouTube? It's me, your boy Squiddy, back in another replay. I know I haven't done one in a while, but here we at back at it. So I'm playing Skyscraper go second. I think it made me go first because I didn't pick, and obviously if you don't pick and the timer runs out, it chooses for you. So we go ahead and go first. That's not too bad going first. Going to Pot of Desires, going to Nash, unfortunately. The banish isn't too bad though. Only one engine part, which is actually a really good banish here. No Skyscraper cards were banished. Just go into a Rose. This is actually not bad. 2 interruptions plus a Rose. Could have been nice to have a Ray, but you know, you can't always win them all. Set 2 interruptions, which is not bad in the Master Duel format. Unlike TCG, like a lot of decks are slower in the Master Duel format, so you can get by with 2. Whereas in the TCG, you need like minimum 3, like ideally 4, just to play around like cards like the Right Eye Arameister package. My opponent's playing Tri-Brigade, searches Fractal. Really good, by the way. So we have 2 interruptions. Usually Tri-Brigades only have 2 plays on their turn. One is a normal summon, and then the other one is a Karis effect. My opponent's going to use Fractal. Right away, send the kit, which is correct. Sending Nerval. I know a lot of people sometimes send just a Nerval off Fractal, which is not good, because even though you're trying to save resources, what happens if your opponent has DD Crow, they banish one of your cards, so you only have 1 Beast Warrior in your graveyard to banish, which means you can't do anything, right? So this way, even if I have DD Crow, he still has 2 to banish, so he can resolve effects. Nerval is actually going to search a Kit here, which is always correct, because Kit's a floater. So if he searched like Fractal or Karis and normal summoned it, and I impermed, that wouldn't do anything. Like I destroyed by battle, it just goes away. But if you have Kit, he can pass, and I destroy that by battle, it dumps another Nerval, which adds another name. So, you know, you get something out of it, right? That's why you generally want to search Kit off Nerval. It's the best one. Here, I'm actually going to play around the Droplet by activating Forbidden Chalice early. So this is something that you might see at higher level plays. How chains work is they go backwards. Forbidden Droplet sends the cost. So if he managed to, and I chained Chalice, and he chained Droplet, Kit would be off the field because he sends it as cost. And then when Chalice resolves his chain link 2, there would be nothing to negate. So his Kit would actually get the effect to summon. Whereas if I do this early, because Kit's negated, even if he activated the effect by banishing 2 and then chain Droplet sending, because the effect was already negated and it activates on the field and resolves on the field, because it was already negated, he would not be able to summon. So that's why I played Chalice early here, just to play around the Droplet. Opponent's going to actually go right into Almirage, which instantly telegraphs the obviously Revolt, because you want to have 4 engraved for the Revolt so you can summon Shurag. Otherwise, there's no reason to send a good and healthy Kit to the graveyard when he could have got another search off a Nerval dump on my turn when I destroyed it. Here, he sets 4 back row, which is kind of scary. I'm just going to play, you know, play it safe, make Hayate, try to get 3 spells in my grave as well as Ray in my graveyard as soon as possible. One thing you can always do is dump Ray off Hayate, because this dumps any Skyscraper card. So you want to get Ray in your graveyard as a priority in this deck, just because that's like what allows you to live and not get OTK'd. Opponent will use Revolt, which is correct. Just get rid of the Hayate. I don't have Ray in grave. Also, he's going to order his chains correctly. Chainlink 1 Nerval, Chainlink 2 Shurag. You want to build your chains as Tri-Brigade based on what you want to play around. For example, if I have no monsters on the field, you want to play around Gamma, so you might do Shurag Chainlink 1, Nerval Chainlink 2, maybe even Kit Chainlink 3. But in this case, he wants to play around the Ash Blossom, so obviously make Shurag Chainlink 2, so I cannot. He chain blocks me, so I can't Ash Blossom the Nerval if I had Ash. I'm going to chain Chalice, obviously, to negate the Shurag, keep my monster, as well as send a 3rd spell to my grave. But then he has a Droplet to play around this. So like I mentioned last turn, we actually got rewarded by flipping the Chalice early to play around that Droplet. But here, obviously, there's no way to play around it, so he's going to Droplet just to resolve his effect. He gets to chain the resolve backwards. The Shurag gets the effect, banishes the Hayate, searches the Kit. Like I said earlier, always good to search Kit because it's a floater. Main phase 2, I have 3 spells, so I'm just going to activate Engage. Obviously not in one of these zones in case it's Imperm. We know this one's Imperm, by the way, because why else would you set it in the same column as one of my face downs, right? So this one's Imperm, and here I add a Ray and then draw Cosmic. I make a huge misplay here that ends up costing me dearly, so I activate Cosmic Cyclone. I'm laser focused. I'm like, oh, I guess I win the game because I get the Ray. As long as I banish the Imperm, my Kagari goes through, I add back the Engage, I get to draw a card, and the game's probably over. But that was really laser-headed thinking by doing that. What I actually should have done was actually Cosmic this one, because I don't know what this is at this point. It could be another Revolt, which would be devastating, because on his turn, if he flips it, Revolt's obviously once per turn, but on his turn, he could use it, get a Shurag, and just go infinite pluses. So that's probably the only way I could lose this game at this point. I had Imperm in this zone, so what I should have done was banish this one, as a 1-for-1 off the Cosmic. And then if he chains Imperm, I can chain my Imperm to negate his Almirage and then coincidentally negate his Imperm. So that would have been 2 cards that got rid of his 2 back row. But instead, I was like, oh, you know, I drew Cosmic, just slapped it on the table, banished the Imperm, played Kagari, everything goes through, and then this is at the point in the game where I realized I messed up. I'm like, okay, that's obviously Revolt because all my effects are going through. I should have just banished that and used my Imperm to negate his Imperm. So at this point, I was like, oh, what can you do? Just add a Widow Anchor. Unfortunately, I don't draw any other interruptions, so I only have 2 interruptions, which against Tri-Brigade normally would have been good off the normal summon and the Karis. Again, those 2 plays are the normal plays that they have, but because obviously he has another Mystery Trap, that could be a Revolt, that could be really bad because I would need a 3rd interruption to stop that Shurag or whatever came out of it. So my opponent will draw here for turn. We know who they have Kit in hand. And then immediately he flips on the Revolt, and I'm like, yeah, that was my fault. I misplayed. So he's actually going to summon all his monsters, including the Shurag that he made last turn, because again, Revolt actually links summons a monster, so you can legally summon back whatever you link off of, whatever you summon off of Revolt. Summons a Shurag. He can't search off that Shurag because he doesn't have anything banished, but it doesn't matter because he has another Shurag. She could just send that to the grave by linking it and then search later. But obviously, playing around Ash again, use a Nerval to add something. He's going to use a Shurag to banish the Widow Anchor, which I just allowed because, like, yeah, if I negated it, it didn't really matter. So, I mean, in hindsight, I probably should have just negated and took it, but I think at this point I already, like, conceded because I knew I lost because he has a Kit as well as the Karis in hand. Here, I don't know why I flipped it early, played around Droplet, but I was already playing not to lose, so I shouldn't have done that. In hindsight, I should have taken the Shurag, but it was still game with Access Code and Doom Eagle, so it didn't really matter. But I think my opponent here obviously has the Karis that he searches off the Shurag. You know, maybe in hindsight, if I did take the Shurag, because my opponent misplayed by not searching this Karis earlier, or actually, yeah, off of the Nerval, I might have actually won here now that I think about it, looking at this replay, but yeah, anyways, he ends up going to Dumiko, shovels back the Ray, makes Access Code, and that's about game. So yeah, again, that little misplay that I made on the previous turn by not Cosmic Cycloning that Revolt there when it was so obvious. I had the Imperm to take care of his Imperm. That's what I should have done. So yeah, again, you have to sometimes think like Galaxy Brain when you're playing this game and make sure you consider every option. Like when you're in such a winning position, you have to say like, how could I lose? What's the one edge case that I could lose and account for that? So yeah, that's about it. I actually lost, which does happen. So if you guys like this video, check it out. Please subscribe, comment, check out my other videos, and then I'll be uploading some more. Ciao.